Welcome to This Explainer. You might think going to sleep is as simple as flipping a light switch. You close your eyes, power down, and that's it, right? Well, the reality is, your brain doesn't actually have a simple on-off switch. The biological transition from being completely awake to being fully unconscious is incredibly complex and, frankly, it is surprisingly glitchy.
So I want you to picture this. You're in bed, everything is perfectly quiet, and you are so close to drifting off. And then, bam! Your entire body slams awake like you just missed a step on a staircase. Ever felt that sudden, terrifying dropping sensation? That jarring experience is super relatable, and it's absolutely the perfect hook into the first phase of our chronological journey into sleep. Okay, let's dive into exactly what's happening there. That massive sudden jolt is called a hypnic jerk. See, as you fall asleep, your muscles naturally begin to relax, but your brain, which is also trying to power down, sometimes gets a little confused. It misreads that sudden loss of muscle tone as you literally falling. So it panics and fires this massive emergency jolt of electricity right through your body to catch you. It's a completely harmless evolutionary glitch. Back when our ancient ancestors slept up in trees, a sudden drop in muscle tension was genuinely dangerous, so that jerk kept them from falling to their deaths. Today, obviously, your bed is safely on the ground, but your brain just literally didn't get the memo.
Now, what's really wild is just how common these transition errors are. A massive 70% of people experience what are called hypnagogic hallucinations while falling asleep. That means the vast majority of us are going to see visual flashes of light, weird geometric patterns right behind our eyelids, or even hear random voices. And it happens simply because the brain doesn't switch cleanly between wakefulness and sleep. Basically, the dreaming signals start bleeding through while your conscious mind is still partially online. And then there's this absolutely fascinating, kind of terrifying phenomenon known as exploding head syndrome. Imagine you're almost asleep and suddenly an enormous bang goes off completely inside your head. It sounds like a loud gunshot or a massive crash, which is obviously terrifying in the moment. But the comforting scientific reality here is that it's completely harmless. As your brain powers down, instead of your sensory processing fading out nice and gradually, your auditory neurons misfire and just discharge all at once. So yeah, it's just your sensory neurons failing to shut down quietly. Section 1. Deep sleep disturbances. Entering slow-wave sleep. All right, so when you're in this incredibly deep stage of sleep, being suddenly forced awake causes what's called a confusional arousal. The brain comes partially online, but it just can't fully transition to wakefulness. I really want to reassure you here. Waking up severely disoriented, being completely unresponsive to your partner, or even acting out aggressively in this state is not a sign of some deeper psychological issue. It is literally just a biological glitch of the brain getting stuck partway out of deep sleep. This brings us to the stark difference between a simple bad dream and a true night terror. A nightmare happens during your REM dreaming stage. You can usually remember it, and if your partner comforts you, it actually helps. But a night terror? That occurs way down in deep, slow-wave sleep. The person's body is in extreme physiological panic. We're talking heart racing, screaming. But their consciousness is entirely offline. They are completely unreachable in that moment. And by morning, the entire panic is totally forgotten. Also occurring in this really deep stage is sleepwalking. And there are some totally surprising facts about this. The most common myth is that sleepwalkers are just acting out a dream. They absolutely aren't. Dream enactment actually happens in a totally different sleep cycle. The crucial takeaway here is that sleepwalkers aren't acting out a dream narrative at all. Their motor system just accidentally booted up while their conscious mind stayed completely powered off. They can navigate an entire house with zero awareness. And by the way, waking them up is not actually harmful. That's a total myth. The real danger is them accidentally injuring themselves while they're wandering around unaware. Section 2, trap between sleep and wake. The REM stage? Take a look at this number, 66, as in 66% of people talk in their sleep at some point in their lives. Because this often happens in REM and lighter sleep stages, people always ask, hey, can you interrogate a sleep talker to get their secrets? The answer is almost never. It's really just the brain accidentally leaving its microphone on while it produces random verbal fragments from partially active networks. You can almost never extract real, coherent secrets from them. Now, think about the incredibly unsettling experience of a false awakening. This is where your brain gets a little too good at mimicking waking life. You dream that you've woken up, gotten out of bed, and started your morning routine. Your brain runs such a highly realistic simulation of your bedroom that it completely bypasses and fools your reality-checking systems. Sometimes this happens multiple times in a row, trapping you in this highly confusing, exhausting loop of fake mornings before the real one finally begins. This perfectly highlights how waking up can be just as glitchy as falling asleep. Earlier, we talked about hypnagogic hallucinations that happen when you're drifting off, but hypnopompic hallucinations happen as you are waking up. Your dreaming circuitry doesn't fully shut off, which means dream content bleeds directly into the waking world. This is exactly what causes you to suddenly see a figure in your room or a giant spider on the wall. Because your brain's reality checking systems haven't fully booted up yet, in that split second, the hallucination is absolutely indistinguishable from reality. Okay, let's break this down step by step to demystify one of the absolute most terrifying sleep glitches out there, sleep paralysis. Step 1. Your brain regains consciousness. You are awake. But step 2, REM atonia, which is the mechanism that paralyzes your muscles during dreaming so you don't physically act them out, well, it persists. Your body hasn't unlocked yet. Step 3 is where the sheer terror comes in. Because you're paralyzed and feeling vulnerable, your brain's threat detection system absolutely panics, and it actually generates a hallucination to try and explain the paralysis. Understanding this is huge because it proves it's really just a chemical delay in your nervous system, not a literal demon in your room. Section 3, Daytime Dangers and Debt, the waking world. If you've ever tried to function the second your alarm goes off and felt completely brain dead, you've experienced sleep inertia. The main point here is that waking up is not an instant one-step process. Cerebral blood flow is still low, and adenosine, that's the chemical that drives sleepiness, hasn't cleared from your system yet. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles all your rational thought, is literally one of the last regions to boot up. So a groggy prefrontal cortex perfectly explains why you make terrible, completely irrational decisions first thing in the morning. Furthermore, if you're dealing with daytime exhaustion, it might actually be caused by silent disruptors of your sleep architecture. Nocturnal leg cramps can cause sudden, painful muscle contractions, and then there's myoclonus, which causes repeated, rhythmic twitching across your limbs. The end result of both of these is that your body is constantly waking itself up through micro-awakenings. Even if you don't fully regain consciousness, these constant movements pull you into lighter sleep stages, leaving you completely unrested during the day, and you won't even remember the disruptions. Now, this next number is genuinely alarming, 17. It only takes 17 hours of being awake before you start experiencing what are called microsleeps. These are dangerous, completely involuntary episodes of sleep that last anywhere from 2 to 30 seconds while you otherwise appear to be awake. You literally cannot detect your own microsleeps, making them incredibly dangerous if you're driving or operating machinery. And it doesn't take some extreme days-long scenario. Just 17 hours of being awake is enough to trigger them. And when you finally do try to recover that sleep debt, you might get hit with REM rebound. See, when your REM sleep is consistently suppressed, the brain accumulates a massive deficit. The very moment it gets the opportunity, it dramatically increases the duration and the intensity of your dreams to catch up. This perfectly explains why you get incredibly bizarre, intense, and emotionally charged dreams when you're finally catching up on sleep over the weekend or during the first weeks of quitting alcohol, which heavily suppresses REM. Your brain is just aggressively collecting its sleep debt. Section 4, Hacking the Dream State, Taking Control. Now we get to lucid dreaming, which is the fascinating state of being conscious, completely aware, and actually able to exert control within an active dream. And it's so vital to explain that this isn't some weird pseudoscience. Researchers have empirically proven lucid dreaming in lab settings. They actually had dreamers signal their awareness using deliberate, pre-agreed eye movements while they were asleep. Because your eye muscles aren't paralyzed during REM, researchers could literally see the signals on the EEG records at the exact moment the participants reported becoming conscious. So the brain is quite literally in REM sleep and aware of that fact at the exact same time. It's amazing. Fortunately, there are some really actionable techniques you can practice to harness this glitch and consciously explore your own mind. You can use reality testing, which is basically checking your hands or trying to read text repeatedly throughout the day so it becomes a habit that naturally carries over into your dreams. You can also try the wake back to bed technique, where you wake up briefly after a few hours of sleep to enter REM more directly when you go back to sleep. Or you can use the mild technique, which is simply setting a really clear, focused mental intention to recognize that you are dreaming right before you fall asleep. Which brings us to the end of this explainer. We've seen how the brain misinterprets muscle relaxation as falling, how it completely struggles to boot up reality-checking systems during false awakenings, and how we can actually test reality to take back control of our dreams. Considering just how incredibly convincing these biological glitches can be, I want to leave you with one final thought to tie back into reality testing. So, are you absolutely sure you're actually awake right now?
Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I really hope you leave with a newfound fascination for the complex, wonderfully glitchy power of your own mind.